My name is Mitchell Stevens. I'm a faculty member here at Stanford. A question for Secretary Duncan. If you could just elaborate a little bit more on your comment about the need to sort of fundamentally rethink the teacher preparation and pipeline.
Sure, and that's probably an hour-long conversation, so I'll try and be quick. But if I look at high-performing countries, places like Singapore and Finland only let in the top 10% of their graduates into the field of education. So 90% of folks who want to teach in those countries don't have the opportunity, don't have that privilege. We take 2/3 of our teachers from the bottom third of the talent pool coming in. We do almost nothing. Some places are starting to be more creative, but across the country, very few incentives and lots of disincentives for your hardest working, your most committed, your most successful teachers and principals to go to the children of the communities who have been historically underserved. Then we wonder why we have massive achievement gaps. So the kids who need the most help get the least. We do a very, very poor job of training future teachers. And when you survey teachers across the country, about 2/3 say they feel unprepared to enter the classroom. So this isn't my data, that's asking real young teachers. And I always say if 2/3 of our nation's doctors said they were unprepared to practice medicine, we would have a revolution in this country. But the fact is, educators, no one seems to sort of care enough. I think we do a horrendous job of retaining that good talent, training. We lose far too many of our great young teachers in their first 3, 4, 5 years. Bad pay, bad support, not enough mentoring, they feel overwhelmed. We don't have meaningful career ladders. I think we should pay teachers a heck of a lot more. So I can go on and on about this, but at every step, the pool coming in, how we train them, how we support them, how we mentor them, how we build a real career where they can make a good living and stay in the classroom, every single piece of that pipeline, I think, is far, far from where it needs to be. So this is about radical change, not about incremental change.
Is there enough funding from the federal government, from the state governments to do that sort of thing, to provide even the professional development that we continually hear teachers need?
Thanks for asking the question. Quick quiz to the audience. What do we spend, what does the federal government spend each year on professional development? Any guesses? Yeah, we spend at the federal level $2.5 billion a year on professional development. If you add in states and districts, it's probably $5 to $6 billion. And I would argue that's by far the worst money we spend. We're getting the least bang for the buck. And when I go out and talk to groups of teachers like this and throw those numbers out, they usually laugh or cry. They're not feeling it. So are we investing enough? Probably not. Do we need to get a hugely better ROI on our current investment? Yes, we do.
And is there some effort going on to do that?
Yeah, there's lots of efforts to do that. Again, I think Common Core is a big step in the right direction. I think technology and building communities of practice across the nation, which you couldn't do that before. So there's some significant efforts going on. But as a country, we would be a D- would be a generous assessment of where we are today. The question is how much better can we get and how quickly we can do that.
Another question? You have to raise your hand high because there are bright lights here. So again, one of the things that I'm, sorry, is there a question there? Yes.
Just more on that, what would you see as effective professional development? And I was thrilled in the Democratic National Convention to hear all the references.
There's a mic behind you there.
I was thrilled in the convention to hear all the references to early learning, and I'm curious about kind of a birth to 12 look at professional development and what you think teachers need and what outcomes you would expect to see to feel like that ROI was there.
So that would have been my third thing. You only gave me 2 things I'm proud of, so I had trying to stick to the script, but thanks for the opportunity. So if you go 3 through 5, the fact that we were able to, over the past couple of years, to invest over $600 million in early childhood education when our department historically was pretty absent from that conversation and didn't invest, I feel extraordinarily good about. And the fact that we're investing in states that are increasing access, making sure it's high quality, and increasing access in disadvantaged communities, I think I can make a pretty compelling case that's the best investment we can make. I keep saying we have to stop playing catch-up in education at every level. The only way to stop playing catch-up is if our babies enter kindergarten ready to learn and ready to succeed. So we're in this for a long haul. We have a long way to go. Thrilled of where that's going. I think the big thing on the professional development is just asking teachers what they want, and job-embedded professional development, communities of practice. What traditionally happens is people go off to a retreat or to a hotel ballroom someplace and do something that's just wildly disconnected from their reality. And this is one, just empowering teachers to help each other, to use technology, to figure out how we do these things together. This is one where I think it's been way too top-down, way too bureaucratic, And I think the best thing to do is ask them, what do you want? How do we help you get that? How do you learn from your peers, not from some lecturer who makes $1 million traveling the country, sort of spouting off on stuff that isn't relevant to their lives. So job embedded, real, building communities of practice, using the $5–6 billion, I think we have an opportunity to do a much better job in keeping those great young teachers.
Do you feel that, let's talk about race to the top for a few moments, and share with us what you feel has been the best element of race to the top and the worst element. Because there have been some people who've said, you know, in some ways, it may be exacerbating problems.
The best element, from two best elements. One was just the extraordinary interest coming from states, and to see the amount of change we've seen. Again, 46 states raising standards, work around data systems we haven't talked about, 1,300 schools now being turned around. These are chronically underperforming schools, and Julius's wife is helping on a set of those. Still very early on, but places that were just a disaster for decades are showing some real signs of hope. And data's early; it's still, you know, a year or two in, but tremendous movement in the right way. That's been, I think, wildly successful. The fact for me that while the money, you know, $4 billion is a lot of money, the fact that I can honestly say we've seen as much, if not more, reform in states that didn't receive a nickel of our money as states that received hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's been a fascinating lesson that people were looking, they knew what the right thing was. They were looking sort of for the space and the opportunity and, frankly, the political cover. And to see the amount of change, irregardless of whether they were funded or not, they had to work together. They had to come up with a plan. And some states got a lot of money, and other states said, we're just going to do it ourselves. And if you put the big money states with the no money states, you can make a pretty compelling argument. The amount of reform we've seen on both sides has been amazing.
Have districts that are, what about districts that are small, the 80% of districts out there that have 5,000 kids or so, and they don't see themselves as candidates to write applications to get into Race to the Top?
So to be clear, to this point, we've invested at the state level, at both the early childhood and on the K-12 side. What we have now is an RFP out on the street for districts. So this is the first time we've played at the district level. We anticipated about 200, 250 districts applying. We have north of 900 that'll probably come in. So again, a huge amount of interest. We'll be able to fund a small percentage of the high quality. I wish we had more, but folks will still move. And you know, hold us accountable for making sure we're funding a set of small rural districts, and we absolutely plan to do that. So there's really we have set aside, you know, to play in that space, and we'll see what comes in. But I actually feel very confident we'll fund some great programs, not just urban or suburban, but in rural communities. The challenge we have, just to go 1 second on, this whole idea of us providing incentives is a radically different way of doing business. That's not what the federal government normally does. Whether it's Race to the Top, whether it's the Promised Neighborhoods Initiative, whether it's the Invest in Innovation Fund, the I3 Fund, Teacher Incentive Fund, all these things are rewarding courage. The challenge we have, frankly, on both sides of the aisle is that politicians are trained to get a big pie and take home their tiny sliver and claim victory. What we're trying to do is make significant bets behind places that can create national models and lead the country where we need to go. And we always have many more great applicants than dollars available. And that's a tough sell to politicians on both sides of the aisle if they can't show their slice that they're taking home. Just one quick example on a Promised Neighborhoods Initiative. Jim Shelton's here, just done a great job with that. First round, we had 300 applicants. We were able to fund about 20 planning grants. We would have loved to have funded between 100 to 150 communities. So you're saying no to lots and lots of really good folks. That's a tough thing to do. My answer is we got to keep coming back year after year after year, but that's a tough sell with politicians.
Do you worry about the election, and do you worry?
I'm not worried at all.
What would happen?
Failure's not an option here.
Failure's not an option. Then I'll rephrase the question in a different way. Provided you're both given another 4 years in office, what do you want to be able to tell the community? What do you want to be able to tell people here? What do you want to be able to tell teachers in 4 years' time?
You know, a couple of things. One is 4 years from now, I want to be able to say that we have executed on some big, bold ideas that change the course of technology and education. Arne and I, a few months ago, announced a goal around digital textbooks. and moving the country from where it is to a digital textbook world in 5 years. Well, let's get there. One of the things I wanted to echo in what Arne is saying is now is the time to identify and roll out the big, bold ideas and I'm just going to stay within technology and education. And that's why this lead commission process is so important. One of the hard things to do when you're in the day-to-day of government is say, hey, look, here's a 5-year plan, here's a 10-year plan, let's commit to it, let's work backwards, and let's have the big ideas, the bold ideas, and get them done. This is the time. I both encourage the lead commission to develop big, bold ideas, and I know that they will. And that's part of what makes it so exciting.
So 4 years from now, we have to have college graduation rates up significantly, and there are a whole set of indicators leading to that point. One challenge to this community specifically is can we have every child in this country, again, regardless of background, have a tablet or device? Can we stop having that conversation? Can we get this community to step up and think about every single child learning 24/7 and start talking about content and data and who's learning the fastest and how we sort of break through there. So I would love to see sooner than later every single child have that access.
And if you were in high school right now, if you were a junior in high school, what would you take?
What would I take if I was a junior in high school? I have a son who's a sophomore in college, and he only listens to about half of mine.
But it's an interesting question, right? Would you be taking classes online at Udemy? Would you be taking classes at Coursera? Would you be going to school? Would you be building a robot? What would you do? Knowing what you know about the direction that the world is going, knowing what you know about what employers might want from you, what would you be doing if you're in high school right now?
Look, there's no question, first of all, from the country's perspective, that we need more science and engineering graduates to keep fueling that part of our economy, which is going to be important for a long time to come. And I certainly want to make sure that anyone coming up through elementary school and high school who had a potential interest in those subjects.
No. I asked you what you would do.
But I want to give a nuanced answer. No, but there's a reason for it. I think we need more scientists and engineers. I think right now our system discourages people who could be great scientists and engineers from moving in that direction. I don't think everyone should be a scientist and engineer, and I think one of the great things we can do using technology and otherwise is help every kid reach their own potential, have a great life, learning, as Arne says, 24/7 and lifelong. So I don't think there's a single answer for all kids. I got 3 kids. There isn't a single answer for them.
Is there one answer for you, though? Just one.
For what question?
We'll give you a minute to think about it. We'll come back to you on this.
Right.
Arne, what would you take if you were a junior in high school right now? What would you do? Would you study online?
I would have played more basketball.
You'd play more basketball.
No. And all seriousness, I would have take a college level class, whether that's AP, whether it's online, whether that's at a local school. I think having that exposure is really important. The other thing I don't think we do enough of is sort of experiential learning around something you're interested in. So a job shadowing, a mentoring, an internship, whether it's again with a tech startup, whether it's with a nonprofit or a social service agency, whether it's in the business community, giving our children access, even earlier, starting in middle school, but giving them access to the real world and having them be able to pursue their passion, pursue what they love, and see the connection to the learning. An opportunity like that, I think we need to do a lot more.
So you do some college prep and then some real life experiential kind of thing. And
yes, and frankly, less time in the traditional high school setting that, I'll speak for myself, that I went to, yes.
And less time in the traditional setting.
Yes.
All right. Julius, anything you want to add to that?
I misunderstood the question. I completely agree. I think the combination of exposing yourself to college AP level classes and getting out in the world and doing stuff, I think it's exactly right.
Good. Please join me in thanking both of these gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Arne. Thank you.